enter into worship with the words of the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Welcome to this place where equity and justice transcend mere dreams, where they are the air we breathe. Enter this sanctuary, all who yearn for respite from a world rife with scarcity and inequity, rife with the relentless shackles of privilege and bias. Come, embrace this space, be embraced by this space, this refuge where scarcity and disparity dissolve into we together, crafting a place where the breath of life is equity and justice, cherished, manifested, sustained. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join our voices in our opening hymn, number 38, In the Gray Hymnal Morning Has Broken, and we are no longer masking while singing.
Standing as Julia Lawrence lights our chalice. In the words of Deborah Falk, a chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people. A faith that demands the living out of goodness. A faith that requires thoughtfulness. A faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us.
I invite you to gather around as we hear a special tale called What is Given from the Heart by Patricia C. McCassick, illustrated by April Harrison, and this is a little longer than usual, so just settle in. It'll be perfect then. Okay. It was a rough few months for Mama and me. We were already poor, but we got poorer last April when Daddy went to sleep on the front porch and never woke up. Mama cried and cried because Daddy didn't have a suit to be buried in. Come June, we lost the farm and moved to a rundown shotgun house in the bottoms. On Friday the 13th, it rained frogs, everything flooded, and Smitty, my dog, disappeared. Misery loves company, Mama said, shaking her head as she swept water out the back door. I hugged her up close the way I always did when she was sad or I was scared. As long as we have our health and strength, we are blessed, James Otis, Mama said, trying to sound brave, but things didn't get any better. We got an early snowfall in November, and Christmas was skimpy, but we made it through to the new year. Before I realized, February was upon us, with Valentine's Day just 2 weeks away. One day, Reverend Dennis made an announcement during service. Just as we always do, we'll be delivering love boxes to needy folk in our community, he said. Irene Temple and her little girl have lost everything in a fire. We must add them to our list. Next week, bring whatever you think might be useful to them. And remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. James Otis, we need to help out, Mama said on the cold walk home. I came back with, how are we going to do that, Mama? We don't have anything ourselves. Mama kept right on talking. Sister Bunch told me the daughter's name is Sarah. She's 7, 2 years younger than you are. You could find a little bit of something for her, don't you think? I wasn't convinced. What do I have that the little girl would want? Now, said Mama. Remember what Reverend Dennis said? What is given from the heart reaches the heart. That night, I lay warm and toasty under one of Mama's quilts. Still, it made me tremble to think about fire taking away what little we did have. What am I going to give Sarah to make up for all she's lost, I wondered. I considered the blue ribbon I'd won in the school spelling bee. Nah, that award was important to me, but it would mean nothing to her. I looked over at my beautiful sparkling rock, the one I had found down by the creek. But how would that help Sarah? You can't eat a rock. Unable to come up with anything good, I pulled the covers over my head and drifted off to sleep. Come morning, I found Mama in the kitchen, busy sewing. I know if we had a fire, I would miss my aprons, Mama explained. So, I decided to make Mrs. Temple one. But Mama, you're using your white tablecloth, the only nice thing you have. James Otis, I'm stitching with a loving heart. My hope is that this apron will give as much joy to Mrs. Temple as the tablecloth has given me. That made me study harder on what I could contribute. Maybe Sarah would like something to play with, like my whistle from Dexter Benson's birthday party, but my spit was all over it. What about my crayons? I drew so many pictures with them, even though the pink, black, and dark blue were missing. No way. I couldn't give her used crayons. And I couldn't give her my pencil. That was just a nub and not much eraser left either. As time flew towards Valentine's Day, I fretted more and more. I considered giving Sarah a puzzle. It didn't bother me that 2 pieces were missing, but it might bother her. That wouldn't do, not even with a bow on it. And neither would my capeless Superman Halloween costume. Then I remembered my book, Things That Roll. Mom would pay 10 cents for it at the resale shop. I read it every night until I'd memorized each word, and then I drew pictures of all the stuff that rolled. Sarah might enjoy my book, I thought, but maybe she didn't like trucks and marbles and such, but still, it got me to thinking. I gathered my crayons, my pencil, and some paper, and got busy. On Sunday before Valentine's Day, we were off to church. Along the way, Mama told me, as usual, the trustees will deliver the love boxes to the houses of the needy. But Reverend Dennis has invited the temples to receive theirs at Olive Chapel so they can meet the congregation. The church was full. Mama beamed as she carefully placed the apron in the box. When we presented the temples with their love box filled with all kinds of clothing, food, tools, and toys, Mrs. Temple was overcome with emotion. The congregation shouted, "Amen." Even so, Sarah seemed sad and afraid. She clung to her mama's arm and hid her face. I walked over to where they were standing. "Hi, Sarah," I said, sounding cheery-like. "My name is James Otis, and I am pleased to meet you." "Same to you," she answered, looking at her feet. "Here," I said, handing her my gift. "I wrote it, drew the pictures, and put it together myself just for you." Sarah managed a smile as she stared at the book I made. Then, real slow-like, she read the cover. "From my heart to your heart," by James Otis Petway. "It's about a little girl named Sarah, and don't tell me," she said. "I want to read about myself by myself. I can't believe it, she spilled a book about me." Then she covered her mouth to catch a giggle. Seeing little Sarah happy made me happy too. I laughed out loud. I put some hard words in it, so you can look them up. "You sound like my teacher." Sarah pressed the book to her heart, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Thank you, James Otis. I will keep this book forever and ever." Walking home, Mama held my hand. "The Temples looked very grateful," she said. "I think we reached their hearts," I said. Mama nodded. "I'm proud of you, James Otis." "How come?" I asked. "'Cause you're you." In winter, night comes early. The sky was darkening and it had started to snow. I stuck my tongue out to catch a snowflake as Mama spun joyfully round and round. Suddenly, Mama stopped. "Look, there's something on our porch," she said. I rushed ahead, and there it was. A love box had been delivered to us. And our hearts rejoiced. Our hearts rejoiced. So what did we learn? What is given from the heart is received from the heart. Thanks for listening. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, number 323 in the gray hymnal, "Break Not the Circle." In the silence that follows the spoken prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys or concerns you hold in your heart this morning. Spirit of love and life, source of all that is, receive these, the prayers and meditations of our hearts, that no one be outcast, that no one face hate, that no one face violence, that we may live in a land of beauty, hope, and love, that we may reside in a faith of justice and equity abounding. May we, in each of our days, immerse ourselves in a world of unfolding beauty, the stars, the pale petals of a rose growing ever more beautiful, as they are shared by more and more beloveds, released from the bonds of inequity. May love, hope, and dreams prevail as we work to heal an aching world. May awareness, courage, and radical empathy guide us in each of our days. As Spirit of Life, we follow your calling to love. May justice and equity be woven into the very fabric of our lives, held in the air in our lungs and the blood in our veins, as we work to heal all of that which is broken. While we cannot do everything, we can still do something. So may we connect with our divine purpose to love. May we love wholeheartedly and unconditionally the downtrodden among us, as today and each day we move forward in faith, in hope, in beauty, in love. May we give from the heart, so from the heart our blessings may be received. May it be so, and amen. And now, light a final candle for all else we hold in our hearts and in our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help, as am I. Please reach out with any needs.
Our offering words this morning are from Eric Walker Wickstrom. It is said, the Lord loves a cheerful giver, yet will accept from a grouch as well. As the ushers prepare to take this morning's offering, may each of us look into not just our wallets or our checkbooks to see how much we have with us. Let us also look into our hearts and see what is available there. How much love, how much generosity, how much faith, how much gratitude, how much hope. And let us take our offering from that account. For those of you watching the service online, you may contribute to a virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by sending a check to the church office. Will the ushers please come forward? For the gifts which we have received, and the gifts which we ourselves are, may we be truly grateful. May we be committed to using these gifts to make a difference in the world, to increase love and justice, to decrease hatred and oppression, to expand beloved community, to share and to keep sharing as long as ever we can. And we give thanks. Amen. Our first reading is from Clarissa Pencola Estes. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale. We are called by Natalie Fenimore. We are called called by the wind, the rushing water, the fireflies, the summer rain, the summer sun, called by the sidewalk, the playground, the laughing children, the streetlights, called by our appetites and gifts, our needs and challenges, called by the bottle, the needle, the powder, the pill, the game, the bed, the need, the want, the pain, the cure, the love, the hope, the dream, called by the spirit of love and hope and visions of God's purpose for our lives. We are called. What do we choose? How do we answer? I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn number 1060, as we sing of hope and joy.
When we pause to center in spirituality, when we pause to connect with all we hold sacred and holy, all that cultivates our spiritual growth, all that fosters hope and love and compassion and an ever-deepening faith, we may imagine one poised in stillness and silence, meditating on the breath, the heart, compassion. We may imagine one in the humble act of prayer, conversing with their sacred and welcoming the holy into their hearts. And yet I invite us today into a different spiritual practice, a different way to connect with the sacred with hope and love and deepen one's own faith. The practices of justice and equity woven into the very fabric of our lives. We unfold the beauty of life and faith as we fulfill our role as children of the great universe, healing all that is broken one act at a time. Justice and equity are implemented not solely from those actions of monumental impact, not solely from those deeds that quite clearly offer profound influence and change, though these are necessary and sacred as well. But it is what we do and what we carry within throughout the mundane, everyday living. It is, as we heard in our story for all ages, those small intentional acts of giving from the heart, so that our gift of the heart might intimately reach another's with a tender, compassionate impact. This daily work takes awareness, courage, and radical empathy. This daily work means small offerings of equity, one act at a time. It means using our gifts to change the world. It makes life even more beautiful as we become closer to our God and foster our own spiritual growth, initiated through acts of love, faith, and equity. I speak in this sermon of God. To me, God is but one metaphor for the great eternal mystery, the metaphor that rings true for me. Throughout these reflections, I invite you to substitute a name of your own sacred goddess, nature, spirit of life, Allah. When I think of awareness, courage, and radical empathy, I think of how these three abstract ideas must be interwoven in each of our days if we are to fully immerse ourselves in the world around us and shape those intimate pieces of our daily lives. I think of what can draw us closely to our sacred as we serve the divine will in the world. It is awareness when we open ourselves to the world around us. The beautiful world, the grieving world, the hopeful world, the broken world. Noticing each day not just the awe of a sunset or the delicate petals on a rose, but the plights of the unhoused in the streets, the black men in handcuffs, that which impacts our hearts if we do not allow ourselves to disconnect from the pain around us. An awareness that there is suffering in this world. We breathe the same air as the impoverished, the undocumented workers. We drink the common water of the detained, the drug addicts. We weave this into each of our days. Awareness of suffering and equity is sacred and brings us closer to God because it keeps us engaged with the hardship and pain of every child of the infinite universe, pulling us away from the indifference and inaction fostered when we find ourselves in hell. It is to engage each day with courage, even if small ways. Maureen Killoran writes of the courage to be humble in the face of inequity. The unpresuming awareness that we have been granted the power to make change, to make a difference. And yet it will not be enough to put an end to all suffering. Do not languish in discontent, but engage with a humble courage to persevere. It takes courage to have humble and to have a gentle endurance, to keep acting amidst despair, to keep trying amidst failure, to keep hoping amidst the emptiness. Courage is held as a spiritual practice, cultivating deep growth as we hold fast to that persistent love and spark of the divine within, acting, trying, hoping. It is to welcome into one's daily living radical empathy. How do the privileged engage with the marginalized? How do we interact with each other each day? It is not, as author Isabel Wilkerson writes, sympathy, looking at someone and feeling sorrow. It is not pity, looking down from above with a distant sadness at another's misfortune. It is not what is typically understood as empathy, imagining how one would feel in another's place. It means engaging with another to hear their own experience, their own woes and trials with a humble heart. It is in no way about us and how we think we would feel in a situation we may never experience. Instead, it is, Wilkerson writes, the kindred connection from a place of deep knowing that opens your spirit to the pain of another as they perceive it. This is how we engage in sacred and holy ways with all the blessed beings in our midst. With this in mind, centering in those practices that foster justice and equity, let us hear the words of Unitarian minister Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. This poem touches my heart in particular because it speaks to my own theology, that of an intimate connection with God, a purposeful connection with God, an intention to listen to God's sacred guidance in each of my days, God's power of persuasion. Perhaps you find this in the trees, or the ancestors, or within your very being, something that calls you to enact love in this world, to do that one thing that we can do. How can we listen to the spark of the divine, that holy guidance, that profound persuasion? I invite us to live each moment as if we are guided by all we hold holy and divine. We cannot do everything, but we can still do something. It is that humble life we explored earlier. Each of us, we can change the world one moment, one word, one interaction at a time. You remember the words of author Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. One of these acts will create a critical mass to tip the world towards enduring good. It is like a final snowflake that breaks a branch. It starts within our own communities, our own families, an awareness of who is suffering unjustly. Each simple act helps break the cycle of injustice and inequity. How do we weave this into the very fabric of our existence? We begin to entwine our lives with unexpected relationships. With those folks we may not have even noticed before. We engage with each person we encounter with compassion and love and radical empathy, even if through a simple smile or act of acknowledgement, embracing diversity. That breaks the pattern, one action at a time, of the racial divide, the class divide. It is to bring our full, vulnerable, compassionate selves everywhere we go, ready for open and truthful interactions with both those on the edges and with those who perpetuate harm. Why the perpetrators? Because we are called to speak and act towards what is right, just, and equitable. To challenge the ideas that perpetuate hate, violence, and fear, we are called to speak against this. There are more tangible practices that can be incorporated into daily living as well. Donating to a cause, contacting politicians, volunteering one's time. Each simple act helps break a cycle of injustice and inequity. We spoke about this last week, listening to what the oppressed, the vulnerable, the marginalized need, and getting to work. All of these can become routine spiritual practices that change the nation, fostering a deeper faith, connecting to that which matters so much in this world. Listening to divine guidance leading towards love and compassion and friendship and equity for each aching soul, one action at a time. When will the world be tipped towards enduring good? We may use our gifts and talents and passions to change the world. Whatever grounds us in our spiritual beings can be offered as a gift of the heart to the world, ready to be received as such. What can a woodworker do with her wood? An artist with his paints, a gardener with her spade, a beloved in a 12-step group with his sobriety, a musician with her voice. How can each of these people change the world one practice, one day at a time, engaging with that which intimately shapes their own faith and joy and spiritual well-being? I think of an artist depicting the circumstances of the marginalized. I have seen exhibitions lined with portraits of slaves, bringing an abstract history to life. A woodworker raising her hammer to nail together a humble house for Habitat for Humanity, creating affordable housing. A gardener gently placing her seeds below the earth in a community garden. A sober beloved organizing a 12-step group amidst a community of those held home to those of addicts and alcoholics. A rap artist lifting up the hardships of single mothers on welfare or the great potential of children in the inner city. Spiritual practices that depict suffering and hope alike as real. Likewise, spiritual practices that have a direct impact on feeding the hungry, of offering shelter, of healing the broken minds and souls of those who are addicted. The abstractions of art are just as monumental as those tangible acts of healing, bringing awareness to the world. May these practices bring us closer to our own God, integrating justice and equity into our spiritual practice, into the very fabric of our lives, means we care for all of God's creations. We care for the children of the universe, of the goddess, of the spirit of life, the offspring of whatever we hold sacred. The beauty around us is amplified each time the world becomes a more just and equitable place. When more people are able to engage with awe, beauty, and love. When we know the ability to pause and enjoy the wonder of nature is shared by more of our beloved siblings, our appreciation of the deep night sky, filled with distant stars, grows deeper still. When less and less of our siblings live in fear of violence and hate, love is amplified in our own lives because we know it is rippling out until it is felt and treasured by all. Through the work of justice, the beauty of life unfolds for each and every soul in the web of creation. That is the wonder and beauty of a web healed by justice and equity, the world tipping toward enduring good and awe. The beauty of life awakens, love grows, faith grows. We are called in one direction by the bottle, the needle, the pain, the desires. We are called in the opposite direction, towards love, hope, and dreams. Which one will we choose, asks Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore. How do we answer? The minister writes, we are called by the spirit of love and hope and vision of God's purpose for our lives. In many theologies, God has preferential treatment for the poor and the marginalized. What would this God's purpose for us be? To heal the wounded, to feed the hungry, to free the enslaved, to liberate the marginalized from their cages of oppression. That becomes our purpose. We choose love, not the bottle, hope, not the needle, dreams, not the pain. And with love, hope, and dreams, we fulfill the call of a liberating God who created each being with a purpose I believe to be love as we liberate the world. So may we love. May we love this aching world. We cannot do everything, but we can still do something. So may we choose to do that something. Let the beauty of life unfold, for what is given from the heart reaches the heart. Through our awareness and our courage and our radical empathy, we work to heal the wounded web of life so that it be made whole and beautiful. May we, in each of our days, center in our hearts as we weave justice and equity into the fabric of our lives. May we choose to do that something. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn 168 and our gray hymnal, One More Step. sacred space. With justice and equity held in the air we breathe, woven into the very fabric of our lives, may the beauty and life unfold as we give from the heart and receive from the heart, as we nurture our love and our faith, so that we may serve to heal this world. And may we carry this sacred duty with us in each of our days. Go in peace, and amen.